how to date with solid self-worth, how to be single and meet people and make connections and possibly start new relationships while staying firmly in your worth and staying in alignment with your own integrity. This is so important because it's about giving your dating life, your single life, a really strong spine. And that's what most dating lives need, because the reality is that in today's dating world, many people, especially in bigger cities, but not only, are dating for validation. They're dating for a good time. They're dating for hookups. But really, that dating for validation, if you want a long-term relationship, if you want to build a life story with someone, then never before has it been so important to be rooted in who you are and what it is that you want and your sense of value. And that's what this episode is about. And I'm going to give you 7 really practical, important, actionable steps that you can take and also reflect on, so that even if you've had terrible dating experiences, even if you are struggling with some anxiety, even if you are feeling really disempowered being single and in the dating world, these 7 reflections and steps are going to change the game for you. So number 1, having intention is so important. It's like I said, we have to give dating and your dating life and your single life a really strong spine. And you have to know at least 3 to 4, maybe even more. I mean, I always say 3 to 4, but it could even be like 5 to 7 core non-negotiable values, things that are absolutely essential for you to have in a relationship and also in a partner. And here's the thing, a lot of people don't go into the dating world thinking about or reflecting on what's really important to them or the kind of relationship that they want to build, because people don't understand who they are and they don't take the time to understand who they are. But the more you know yourself, the more you know what and who is right for you and what and who is not right for you. So your greatest leverage, I use this symbol of a spine, but your greatest leverage is really understanding yourself. And there's nothing that gives us more backbone than knowing who we are. So what's incredibly important for you to experience in a relationship? Like, a lot of people will say to me, well, peace is really important to me. Okay. Well, then what has to happen in a relationship in order for you to experience peace? Because one person's peace could be another person's boredom. So you can get out the piece of paper and the pen and write down all the things that are important to you, like maybe financial stability. You can say adventure. I want to be in the kind of relationship where we do a lot of trips together and we explore a lot together. You might say, I'm someone who likes to grow. I like to work towards a common goal. I want my relationship to be almost like a business partnership, not in the way that makes it completely unsexy, but you want someone who maybe you want to work with your partner. Maybe you have a very demanding job and you want someone who also has a job so that you don't feel like, I don't know, like you're not giving enough to the relationship. So it's about getting really honest with yourself about what it is that you value. You're never going to find the perfect person. You're never going to have the perfect relationship. Every single one of us, including you, including me, we all come to the table with strengths and we come to the table with certain weaknesses and vulnerabilities. You're never going to find someone who doesn't have any attachment issues, who just doesn't have any issues. It does not exist. But what you can do is get really intentional and clear about what is non-negotiable for you. And that's going to take some time for you to really think about, because love, the process of dating, relationships, and the nature of us as human beings, we're highly emotional. And love is not exactly a rational feeling. We have to be disciplined and not just let chemistry be the reason why we commit to someone or be the only reason, because chemistry is obviously important. It's like, what are the true values? What is it that I want to feel? Because your partner is going to impact how you feel every single day. If you want to build a life with someone, you can only build a life with someone with whom you share core values. You can have different interests. You can have different personalities. You can have a lot of different goals, but you have to share the goal of, this is what we believe a life well lived is. And that's something that takes some reflecting. And most people don't take the time to reflect about that. But that's the number one thing that's going to root you in your value and your worth. Because when we have that kind of self-understanding, then we can be better advocates for what it is that we want. We can't advocate for ourselves. We can't protect our hearts accordingly. We can't create and enforce boundaries if we don't understand ourselves. So that's number one. This episode is sponsored by Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It is genius. It shows you all your expenses in one place, including, get this, subscriptions you forgot about, and guaranteed you've got them. Rocket Money's 5 million members have saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, with members saving up to $740 a year when they use all of the app's premium features. Listen, we are all throwing our money away on subscriptions that we completely forgot about. And so stop throwing your money away. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/onlove today. That's rocketmoney.com/onlove. rocketmoney.com/onlove. Number 2, guaranteed you will probably meet some people who are going to be a test to see how grounded you are in not only your worth, but what it is that you want. So let me tell you a story. I have a good friend, and she's a mother of a small child, and her divorce was hard. It was, all divorce is hard, but she didn't want this. She didn't want this. And she experienced a lot of heartbreak and a lot of rejection. And because of that extreme pain, it forced her to really look in the mirror and to do a really thorough inventory of her choices in life, her choices in men, her choices in relationships. It forced her to take an inventory of how she was showing up in relationships and the ways in which she's a great partner, and also the ways in which she can improve. So in other words, she did the work, because that truly is the work. It's really taking an inventory of our choices, seeing where we shine, and seeing where we can do better. And she really got to a place in her life where she was feeling good. Like she was quote unquote over her ex and feeling ready to open her heart and her life again to the possibility of a relationship. She was starting to kind of get like her groove back, so to speak. And she went to a dinner party and she met someone, good-looking guy who gave her a lot of attention. He was really into her, basically hitting on her in the best sort of way for her. And they had a connection and there was a lot of flirtation. She did something very smart that I always recommend people who have a history of not maybe making the best choices and maybe having some anxiety in dating and around relationships. She used me to help her be accountable. And she said, do you know, this happened. Do you know this guy? Do you know anything about this guy? And I looked him up and I was like, wow, I actually have a friend who knows him. I'm going to ask her about him. The story that I got was that he cheated on his ex-wife, went straight into the next relationship. That relationship ended up falling flat on its face. And he literally was just in a relationship. And his track record was not great. He's a nice guy, but his track record in relationships is pretty awful. So I told her. And I said, yeah, you're going to have to forget about that guy. And for a minute, she was like, really? And then I just paused. And she's like, oh, wow. The old me would just have ignored you and ignored this information. I was like, yep. She's like, but the new me is going to pay attention to that because I'm not just looking for validation. I'm looking for a relationship. Because in the past, she would have wanted the validation. And what I said to her is, you were validated. Here's this guy you find attractive, charming, charismatic. He was giving you tons of attention and you had a fun night getting tons of attention and doing a little bit of a flirt. You got your validation. Now he wants to take you out on a date and there was actually something else. He didn't even live in the country that she was living. So I was like, so you can tell yourself, like, you can go out on a date and just like have a good time and never see him again. But she's like, yeah, but I'm not wired like that. That's not the headspace that I'm in right now. And I just looked at her and I said, you passed the test. She was like, holy crap, I passed the test. That moment where she could have gone one direction and it would have repeated the same pattern. But when she remembered who she was, that she was not who she was 5, 6, 7 years ago. Instead, she was a mom now. She was someone who has done the work. She was someone who was married. She was someone who knows better and wants different things for her life now than she did then. And she's someone who was acutely aware of the mistakes that she's made in the past. She never went on a date with him. And that is what it means to pass a test, because chances are you are going to have those tests. And the old you is going to want the validation. It's going to make a lot of excuses. It's going to want to say, oh, whatever, you only live once. The newer version of you has to be grounded in truth, in integrity, and in self-worth. If you do get these tests and you fail them, that's okay. Your life is going to keep throwing you these tests until you learn the lesson. And sometimes it's just a matter of saying, wow, I've learned this before. I know how this ends. And we have to decide, if we are someone who have had a hard past, we have to decide that we are not going to be that person anymore. We have to decide to step into a new identity and a new belief system and a new path. The third thing that's really important is get in touch with your beliefs. Speaking of belief system, every single one of us has limiting beliefs about love, about relationships, and about the people who we date. So if you date men, you've got, I'm sure, plenty of limiting beliefs about men. If you date women, you've got plenty of limiting beliefs about women. I see it all over social media. It sometimes makes me sad and often makes me chuckle because we have to be able to observe our beliefs. You have beliefs from childhood, from the way your parents related to each other. Some of you are walking around and wanting a relationship so badly because you want love, because you are a human being. And yet, unconsciously, you equate being in a relationship or loving someone with suffering and pain. And so you don't even know that you are internally in a huge internal war. You are in an internal battle, a tug of war between what you want because you're a human being and what you're terrified of. And you want the very thing that you want, you believe is, there's a part of you that believes that by getting it, you are actually going to be happy. But there may be an even bigger part of you that believes that you are going to experience pain because of it. And so how do we break that limiting belief? Well, one is just to acknowledge that it's there. And then we have to challenge it. Well, where did that limiting belief come from? Oh, I saw my parents do this, or I've only been hanging out with the friends who are having a really hard time in their relationships, and seeing their hard time in relationships as evidence that, love sucks or men suck or women suck, as opposed to looking at their circumstance more mindfully and seeing that actually they're having a really hard time because they're having a hard time. And it's not the love, it's all their stuff. We are influenced constantly by our environment. And we are influenced by our childhood, which is part of our environment. And we're influenced by our friends, what we see on TV. And so you have to be really, really mindful. And you could say, well, I feel this way because of these experiences I've had. But, life has a funny way of revealing to us and showing us what it is that we believe. It just keeps showing us. It's like if we think that the sky is purple, we are going to see a purple sky and not a blue sky. You could have had the worst heartbreak ever. And then you think, well, love sucks. Well, yeah, love does come with risk. But love is actually not supposed to hurt. Sometimes it's supposed to challenge us, but ultimately love is supposed to feel safe. And if we have a bad experience, that is because none of us learned this in school. But we have to see what we learned from it instead of just continuing the story of, love equals pain. So much of becoming an emotionally intelligent person is being able to look at circumstances through many different lenses and not just get so stuck in one way of looking at it. And that is how we start to challenge limiting beliefs. Maybe I'll do a whole workshop on this. We'll see. If you're dating and you hate men, but you also love them, you don't think that that's going to get in the way of things? It's like you're attracted to the very entity and person who you also resent. That is going to create all sorts of problems. All the disorganized attachment stuff that you think, the push and the pull, a lot of it comes from an internal belief system. And so you might be at a precipice in your life where you have to learn to challenge some of those beliefs. So you want to hang out with people who are actually in good relationships. Not perfect, but they're content. And you want to limit talking about your friends' nightmare dating stories, because the more you hear them, the more you're going to think that that's reality, as opposed to, no, that's their reality. So you have to be protective of your energy. And this is actually how we are protective of our energy, is filtering what we absorb and getting very discerning about how we look at things, and choosing to look at things from various angles and perspectives. And again, taking that inventory of what is it that I believe that might be getting in the way of me having a good relationship life. This episode is sponsored by O Positive. O Positive is a women's health company. They offer a range of symptom-targeting supplements that support women at every stage of her life, from her first period to well beyond her last. What's so special about their products is that they create real, tangible results with ingredients that are backed by clinical studies and shaped by board-certified doctors. Euro is a probiotic blend specifically formulated to support vaginal health. So balancing pH, balancing the flora. This is all really, really, as you know, ladies, incredibly important. In fact, when taken daily, it's about 2 capsules a day, Euro delivers noticeable benefits within 8 weeks, and you might even see results sooner. So take proactive care of your health and head to opositive.com/JOL or enter JOL at checkout for 25% off your first purchase. That's opositiv.com/JOL for 25% off. The next step in dating and starting relationships from a place of self-worth, self-value, and integrity is knowing how to protect your heart accordingly. And I got a question written to me to my Love Weekly newsletter that was so perfect for this episode. So I'm going to read this and I'm going to answer it, and it is going to help so many of you. Dear Jillian, I know this might sound like limerence. I met someone recently and we became physically intimate very quickly. It was only a weekend when we had a ton of fun, good times, paired with great conversations. But I found myself attaching fast, idealizing him, and then feeling devastated when he later told me he has decided to see someone else exclusively. Logically, I know this doesn't make sense, because I don't actually know him well. And I realize having intimacy so soon made it harder for me to stay grounded. What makes this difficult is that it feels all-consuming. I keep replaying what went wrong or holding on to hope, and it makes me afraid to step back into dating because I don't want to feel this way again. I'm aware this pattern comes from my anxious attachment style. Nope, not necessarily. And I'm actively working on improving other areas of my personal life so that dating isn't my sole focus. Okay, great. What are actionable steps I can take to stop idealizing or obsessing in early dating, especially when I barely know the person? As someone anxiously attached, is it better to intentionally see multiple people at once to avoid this kind of fixation, or are there healthier ways to manage the intensity? I love this question. This question, clearly she's intelligent. Clearly she has some insight into herself. Clearly she is trying to do some work. Clearly she's wants to do what it takes to make sure that she does not find herself in a similar position again. And that's intelligent, because if we're in something that's really painful, we want to learn from it and not do it again. So here's the thing. As women, and you can think of this as women or the feminine, and therefore many women, value connection at a really high level. That's not to say that men in the masculine do not, but women really value it even higher. It's just like our top value. And women have been conditioned, girls and women and the feminine have been heavily conditioned to equate our worthiness with whether or not someone else loves us. In this case, and in her case, a guy, a man. And what that creates is bonding very quickly and then getting obsessive because we've experienced rejection. So even though anxious attachment may play a role in this, it's not just that. And we're never going to actually become more relationally intelligent if we only look at things through the lens of attachment style. You have to understand, like I said in the beginning, your psychology. You have to have enough self-understanding. There is nothing wrong with you if when you are physically intimate, whether it's intercourse or not, but if you have a lot of physical intimacy with someone who you are having a great time with and you're attracted to, so there's fun, there's great conversations, and there's physical chemistry, and then you're physically intimate, the fact that you bond with that person because of that doesn't make you anxiously attached. It makes you a human being. And yes, there are lots of men who will bond from that, but a larger majority of women will. We like to tell ourselves that, yeah, we can have something casual, we can have this fun weekend, because it is. Sometimes it's really fun to have an adventure with a stranger and just have it be that. But not if it is not in your DNA to be able to do that with someone who you actually like, because then you're going to get attached. And the fact that we think that attaching to someone quickly after physical intimacy is a result or a byproduct of anxious attachment is terrifying to me. What if actually that was what should be happening? How have we gotten to this point where we pathologize a person for feeling attached after having a magical weekend with them? So the first actionable step you can take is to not actually call yourself anxiously attached because you're experiencing this. The obsessing over the person is because you were rejected, because rejection breeds obsession. The idealizing of them is because there's a part of you that thinks that life with this person is going to make your life so much better. And you think that because you had a great weekend with them. But anyone can have a great weekend with anyone. And that's the reality that needs to be grounded here. And there are lots of people who can have a great weekend with you while also being invested in someone else. And that is why, if you want to take actionable steps, if this is who you are, to protect your heart, you have to take physical intimacy off the table until you know that you are on the same page as someone. This is not a moral statement. I'm all for people, if they're doing it safely and respectfully, to have these fun experiences. But you have to know yourself. And there's not many people who I know, truthfully, especially not women, but also men, who can have that experience and then not want something more, not want to be bonded. And by the way, it's biological, because estrogen makes it so that when you do have a bonding physical and emotional experience with someone, you produce something called oxytocin, and that is the bonding drug that lives inside of us. Men produce it too, but not as much, because obviously estrogen is significantly lower in men than it is in women. You can still be someone who bonds afterwards, and it doesn't even matter what's going on hormonally inside of you. That's normal. That's okay. It's not anxious attachment. What I would do is definitely take it slow. Dating more than one person, yeah, if your tendency is to put all your eggs in one good-looking basket, then yeah, maybe you need to just put one egg in about 2 or 3 baskets and go really slow with those 3 baskets based on what it is that you want in a relationship, all the things that created your dating spine, based on your own psychology, based on your values, and take your time. And it means that having those kind of experiences should be sort of taken off the table, because you have to honor your psychology and protect your heart. Those are the actionable steps to take. And to manage the obsessing that's going on right now for anyone who might be experiencing some sort of limerence, it is normal to long for a life that's not ours. It's normal to long for someone who we think is going to give us a better life. But you have to just remember that you don't know the person. And sometimes one of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself is this: what void lives inside me that I believe is going to be filled by this other person? And then you can take a deep dive into that, and it'll help. This episode is sponsored by MasterClass. If you love to learn, if you love to grow, if you love to just learn new skills, which I have a feeling you do, then you have to know about MasterClass. With MasterClass, you can learn from the best from around the world on various different things to become your best. Thousands of bite-sized lessons across 13 categories that can fit into even the busiest schedules. I mean, I have said this before, but I will say it again. Even though eggs seem like they're easy to cook, phenomenal eggs, like a phenomenal omelet, like you're like eating at a Michelin star restaurant, that's not so easy. A lot of people can mess up omelets. Well, I learned how to cook one that all my friends said it was the best one they ever had. So how about that? Right now, our listeners get an additional 15% off any annual membership at masterclass.com/JOL. That's 15% off at masterclass.com/JOL. masterclass.com/JOL. This episode is sponsored by Fatty 15. When we age, our cells age too. And if our cells are aging faster than our biological age, we start to feel the signs of aging, even when we probably maybe shouldn't. And think about it. How much time, money, and energy have you spent on health, wellness, and beauty products to look and feel younger and healthier? What would it mean to you to know that there's actually a healthy aging product out there that could help you and all of your loved ones? That's why I am excited to tell you I found it. C15 from Fatty 15 is the first emerging essential fatty acid to be discovered in more than 90 years. It is an incredible scientific breakthrough to support our long-term health and wellness. Fatty 15 is a science-backed, award-winning, patented 100% pure C15 supplement. It's vegan-friendly, free of flavors, allergens, and preservatives, and has 3 times more cellular benefits than omega-3 or fish oil. I'm obsessed with it. Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to help support your long-term health and wellness, especially as you age. And you can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/Jillian and using code Jillian at checkout. Don't overinvest in people who are underinvesting in you, which means that you have to have the courage to walk away. Now, here's what's really important. Some of you watching this and listening to this prefer to be pursued in the dating process. Most women, though not all, like to be pursued. Certainly, there are women who date other women who like to be the pursuer. And then there's going to be a fair amount of you, mostly men, but not only, who prefer to pursue. You have to get very honest with yourself about which role you prefer and stick to it. Whether you are the pursuer or you are the person who likes to be pursued, you don't ever want to chase someone. You want to pursue the person who is giving you some signs that they're interested, some signs that they are open to the possibility of what this could be. And you might like a little bit of the chase. That might be interesting to you. But you don't want to chase the person who is showing you no signs that they're interested in you, and then tell yourself a story that you're always rejected. Because there's going to be some people who are interested in you, some people are not. If you prefer to be the pursued, then be the pursued, but don't be afraid to express that you like someone. You don't have to play that game that you don't like someone, or like you have to act like you don't care to get someone to be interested in you. That's a game for very immature people. But never chase anyone. Never overinvest in someone who's underinvesting in you. And something that I see all the time is, if I give more, then that person is going to see my value. And the thing is, when we're giving more to the person who's not investing, who's not really showing signs of valuing you versus just desiring you, then we start to give more to get them to transition from just being attracted to us and valuing us, you're going to turn them off immediately. And you're going to it's self-abandonment. So you never want to do that. And you just have to ask yourself, do I feel like this person is investing? Do I feel like this person is, wants to pursue something with me? Do I feel like this person is receptive to me? Have we had conversations and are we on the same page? Are their actions aligning with what it is that they say that they want? How does it feel in my body? Do I feel valued? Like, does this person actually want to know my story? Or are they just interested in being physical with me? Do they listen when I talk? When they ask me a question, do they listen to the answer? Do they want to know certain things about me? Is there a curiosity about me? Do I have a curiosity about them? If you're not feeling that from someone, but you're attracted to them and maybe you're afraid to be lonely or you just don't want to be rejected, and then you think, well, if I can just prove that I am worthy, if I can just give more, if I can just be more available, if I can just be more, then they're actually going to invest and choose me. Never do that. And it might feel very unfamiliar and very uncomfortable, and your self-esteem may need time to catch up to that. But the biggest mistake that people make is, well, I'll love myself and then I'll start acting accordingly. Sometimes you have to actually act certain ways, restrain yourself from chasing, and then your self-esteem and your self-confidence and your belief in yourself starts to grow as a result of you doing what it is that you really should be doing and not doing the things that you've always done before. It is a radical form of self-respect to be willing to walk away from anything that is not aligned with who you want to be and what you want to build in a relationship. And that kind of self-respect magnetizes the right people to you and filters out all the wrong people. And I don't want you to be afraid of filtering out the wrong people. I don't want you to be afraid of it taking maybe a little bit longer. I don't want you to get seduced by the thoughts of, well, maybe I will never get another chance or I won't meet anyone else. Again, so that dating spine is, you need to be so firmly rooted in what it is that you want and what it is that you need, and to be willing and have the courage to walk away from anything that is not that. And then the last point that I will make in all of this is this: commit yourself to living a really full life, and don't wait for the partner or the relationship. Everyone views a full life differently. I'm not saying that you have to have every adventure under the sun, but what I mean by a full life is a life of meaning. However you like to fill your time, as long as it is purposeful and meaningful to you, so that you are always nourishing the relationship with yourself, and you're not walking around chronically feeling like you are half a person waiting for your other half. That only sets you up for circumstances where you will tolerate less than what it is that you want. And being able to not just be alone, but to be able to enjoy our lives to the fullest now is one of the better guarantees that you will meet someone with whom you can co-create a loving relationship. So I hope this helps. Probably a couple of things here that you need to work on, but most importantly, I really wanted to challenge some of the beliefs that you might have, some of the ways in which you look at yourself. And then encourage you to show up to this whole scenario differently, because there might be some things that you have to make. There might be some changes that you have to make. So I want to hear from you. Make sure, by the way, that if you are watching this, to click subscribe, because it really helps us. Tell people about this episode, because you just never know whose life you could be changing for the better by clicking share. And as always, please reach out to us at hello@JillianOnLove.com. I read all your messages. I want to hear how this landed. And until next time, thanks for being here. Jillian on Love is a QCODE production, executive produced by David Henning and Steve Wilson, produced and edited by Travis Howe, music by Will Tendy.